Is one of our greatest national success stories. Through the privatization of the power generation assets, this council has consistently laid the groundwork for a modern and competitive economy. Yet I must admit that the speed and speed of our action was now accelerated. A nation moving without a compass, risk drifting, and Nigeria cannot afford such risk at this critical moment in our journey. And the global economy involves so much our approach to asset optimization. We must move beyond traditional sales or simple commercialization. I urge this council to explore modern models of privatization and public-private partnerships, including long-term concessions that attract private investment while government retains ownership. Asset-backed securitization that converts future revenues into immediate development capital, and co-investor sales tied to strict performance benchmarks that guarantee real improvement in service delivery and job creation. These instruments allow us to hold firmly to our compass while navigating the complexities of a dynamic world economy. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we must also confront one of the most persistent hurdles in our national reform journey, which is post-privatization integrity. It is essential that we create seamless structures and ironclad transaction documents that are meticulous, transparent, and legally sound. Our goal must be zero tolerance for ambiguities, because any deviation from clarity pulls us away from our true economic direction. This is how we avoid the expensive and time-consuming litigation and confusion that often follow poorly executed transactions. It is also how we send a powerful signal of stability and seriousness to the international investment community. I wish to appeal to each of us to move beyond merely selling what is broken and instead focus on unlocking the value of our nation's latent assets. From underutilized land and dormant real estate to vast intellectual property and untapped resource opportunities sitting idle on government balance sheets, these assets represent an immense reservoir of national wealth. By leveraging them, we can build a national prosperity fund, finance critical infrastructure, and anchor our diversification agenda. A nation that ignores such resources wanders blindly. A nation that harnesses them advances with confidence, guided by a working compass. At this gathering, we also pause to honor the memory of Sir Jonathan Ikwitam Adoli, an esteemed and dedicated member of the Legal Committee of the National Council on Privatization, who passed away on the 7th of August 2025 and was laid to rest on the 12th of September 2025 in Benue State. Sir Adoli served with distinction offering invaluable insight and unwavering commitment to the committee's work and to the Council's mandate to strengthen the legal and regulatory framework for privatization and public enterprise reform in Nigeria. His contributions remain deeply appreciated. His legacy of service endures, and may his soul rest in peace. In the same spirit, the Council extends its warm congratulations to Mrs. Hadidatu Uwani Mustafa, a valued and dedicated member of the Legal Committee, on her recent appointment as a Commissioner of Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, an appointment duly confirmed by the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This honor reflects her commitment, expertise, and exemplary service, and the Council wishes her continued success as she undertakes this important national assignment. Once again, I welcome you all to this third meeting of the National Council on Privatization. Thank you very much.
The Bureau. This is the third meeting of the National Council on Privatization for the year 2025. It's more like the wrap-up meeting where we presented to a well-attended National Council on Privatization meeting today, chaired by His Excellency the Vice President, and of course all of the statutory members were fully in attendance, including our private sector members. So it's a very, very well attended and robust meeting. At the meeting, we deliberated extensively on the performance of the Bureau and indeed the National Council on Privatization in the year 2025 in terms of the things that we have accomplished. As you heard at the meeting, the unbundling of the Transmission Company of Nigeria into two entities, Nigerian Independent System Operator, as well as the Transmission Service Provider, was achieved in the course of this year. And that institution now is operational, has its own board, has its own management. In terms of impact, we can see a lot more focus on the part of Transmission Company of Nigeria on the engineering side of the transmission infrastructure, by building out and maintaining the transmission infrastructure, where the system operator now focuses on market issues in terms of market settlement, systems operations, and systems planning. And Nigerians can feel and understand the fact that in this year, since the advent of this entity, we have seen less incidents of transmission grid disturbance, which used to be a very frequent occurrence in time past. In fact, in this year, we were told that we've recorded just barely one major incident, as it were. And having said that, there's also the recent achievement that they accomplished last week, which is integration into the West African power pool, which has been on the card for a long time, which includes synchronization with 14 other West African countries, which means that easily Nigeria can dispatch power on the grid across West Africa without any incident. That is something that we have been struggling to achieve, over the years. In the course of this year as well, we also completed the sale process of Afam Power and Afam 3 Fast Power in Afam in Rivers State. And a significant amount that was outstanding, 53.9 billion naira, was collected as privatization proceeds, and that asset is fully handed over to the core investor, Transcorp Power. In the course of this year as well, we have also restructured our transaction. The concession agreement for Zungeru hydropower plant, which is a 700 megawatts power plant, dispatching power to the grid today optimally. In fact, at some of the days, they injected power close to the rated capacity of 700 megawatts, which is quite commendable. And that has complemented power supply to Nigerians in terms of power access. So we signed an addendum to that agreement, which enabled them pay additional 107 billion to governments in October as part of the concession fees. Also today, we look at that work plan for 2025 and how far we have gone. In terms of our overall revenue target and performance, we have accomplished about 179 billion out of 312 billion target for us, which is equivalent of 57%. But we are fairly optimistic that we will hit the 91% performance threshold, because we are expecting another 104 billion in concession fees from Kainji, Jeba, and Shiroro hydropower plant. So we expect to close the year on a very positive note. Looking into 2026, we presented our work plan, which targets about 165 billion net revenue to government. Again, this is subject to the appropriation law that comes out finally for 2026. That figure is a moving target where we speak at the moment. And as part of that work program, one thing that is major that was also approved by Council today is the listing of one of the 11 discos in the country, wherein we can democratize the ownership of these discos since privatization in 2013. This is a plan that has been on the card, which we have not been able to accomplish. But we are confident that in the year 2026, we will be able to sell the shares in those in that particular disco at the retail unit across the 774 local governments in the country. Similarly, as the Bureau has done in time past, in terms of sale of residual shares of government in banks, in terms of sale of residual government shares in NACO, in SACO, you know, where everybody would have a part of this shared prosperity that Mr. President has talked so much about as a major component of the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President. So this is one other major accomplishment we believe will happen next year. And in terms of governance in the Bureau, the Council commended the Bureau itself and the management for the level of strong governance that has been brought to bear in that entity. It is not very typical that you find government agencies delivering or completing the process of finalizing their audited financial statement in a very timely manner. In this Bureau, under the new leadership, we cleared last year the backlog of about 3 years arrears of audited financial statement, made our 2024 account very current, approved within the timeline set, which was done in early April. For the first time in the history of the Bureau in 25 years, we've also submitted the annual report to Mr. President, documenting the activities of the BP itself and the National Council on Privatization. So among other things, these are the matters deliberated upon robustly by the National Council on Privatization this morning into the early afternoon, as chaired